Hello, my name is Mr. Keller, and today I'm going to be talking about the theory of human evolution and how it relates to Charles Darwin's ideas. In the year 1871, Charles Darwin was proposing common ancestry or human descent. This theory was controversial and radical at the time, as no other ideas had been in play that described humans evolving. It was all the ideas circulating were regarding other species like animal life in the ocean and animal life and plant life on land. But humans was a difficult thing for people to think about. Um, a guy named Ernst Haeckel at this time was proposing evolution as something like this: an orangutan, chimpanzee, gorilla, and showing how these primates evolved along one line of evolution. Um, other pictures have humans or Homo sapiens right at the end of this line, so it's showing a type of evolution where one species continues into another, and then into another, in one straight line of descent. Now this theory was controversial as people were thinking that humans were evolving from chimpanzees. And this is a famous picture from around this time, 100 years ago, of Charles Darwin with his face transposed onto a chimpanzee. Now we look at that, and you can tell how many people were thinking and just kind of in an outrage about these ideas. And it led to a lot of confusion in the scientific world and in society. Um, these types of images have kind of evolved into pictures that we see now. This is one where a chimpanzee starts here on the right side, and he's evolving into maybe like a caveman or a Neanderthal, and then an early human with a spear, and then he has a weapon, and then it's Star Wars, right? He has a lightsaber. So we've gone all the way to the pinnacle of evolution. Now, this is funny, but it brings up a very important point that we can talk about when it comes to humans evolving. I want to look at a more accurate description of how things have evolved over time. So we're looking at humans evolving over time. This picture is a more accurate representation. It shows a common ancestor, and it shows a branch of two species breaking off from a common ancestor. We get the pongo, which is eastern primates like orangutans and anything related to an orangutan. And then it breaks off to this tree. Now, look at the blue arrows here. Look at how I've put the arrow between pan and homo. Homo meaning Homo sapien, pan meaning chimpanzee. Now, I've crossed that line out because what I wanted to illustrate is that chimpanzees and humans are not directly related. In other words, primate species didn't evolve along a single line of evolution. They evolved from a common ancestor, and they took different paths of evolution. The gorilla is seen on this path over here, and then the chimpanzee and Homo sapien are along this path, but they also branch off at this point right here. So we can't say that chimpanzees and Homo sapiens are directly related, just as we cannot say pongo or orangutan species are directly related. In other words, I've crossed out this line, this blue line. So when we think of the picture of Charles Darwin, and we think of him being transposed onto a chimpanzee, it represents a lack of understanding and a lack of knowledge in the fossil record. When we study fossils and also DNA, we see a very distinct difference between evolutionary lines. Now, it wasn't until 100 years later in 1984 that we could start to look at the chimpanzee's DNA and start to look at the human's DNA and these other species and see how related they actually were. Um, after we've done these studies, we've seen that humans are related to other species, but we have to make sure that we're looking at the common ancestor and not the individual branches of the tree. Because it's important to understand that we did not evolve from chimpanzees. Rather, chimpanzees and Homo sapiens evolved in distinct paths and branched off at distinct points in the evolutionary tree. Thank you for listening to this today, and I hope my makeshift studio here did well.